The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, filled with beings from hundreds of star systems. Strange shapes and colors moved across the platform and voices hummed in many tones. The counselors were tense, their eyes fixed on the empty space where human ships once moved. For months the humans had been a quiet presence in the galaxy, and now they were gone. Not a single human ship remained in any known sector, and the council had no idea where they had gone. He-Jin, a calm and thoughtful counselor, sat in his usual place. He observed the monitors, which showed faint traces of human activity, disappearing into deep space. He rubbed his hands together and spoke softly. They did not leave a trace of conflict. No fleets, no weapons, no warnings. It is as if they vanished. Miran, sitting beside him, frowned. Her green-scaled skin shimmered under the chamber lights. It cannot be natural, she said. No species has ever left so quietly. There must be a trap. Perhaps they are planning something we cannot see. Yunseo, a young counselor with sharp eyes, leaned forward. I have reviewed every trace of their movements. They left slowly but carefully. It was planned. They did not take resources or attack anyone. They simply left. The chamber buzzed with whispers and confusion. Other counselors argued loudly. How can they leave without leaving anything behind? One asked. Every species leaves a mark. Humans leave nothing. In another part of space, far from the council's view, human ships moved silently. Junseo, a human commander with short black hair and steady eyes, gave orders to his crew. Check the engines. Make sure all systems are off after departure. We cannot leave anything that can be traced. Dayun, a human scientist, worked beside him. She studied the navigation maps and energy signatures. All sensors are disabled, she said. No one will see where we went. The humans moved quickly, carefully, and without noise. They dismantled old stations, removed all data, and erased any records that might reveal their path. It was not done to hide weakness or fear. It was done to leave a mark without leaving a mark. It was their way of showing strength without fighting. Back in the council chamber, Ho-Jin, a senior counselor with silver eyes, looked troubled. Humans are gone, and we do not know why. Every plan we had that involved them is now useless. We cannot predict their actions. We cannot even find them. Miran raised her hands in frustration. This is exactly why humans are dangerous. They do not follow rules. They leave when they choose, and they take nothing with them. How do we deal with that? He-Jin leaned back and spoke in a quiet, thoughtful tone. Perhaps this is not danger in the usual sense. Perhaps it is a test. We have always thought power is in control and domination in fleets and weapons. Humans show us something else. They can act without showing power. They can leave without declaring war. In the human fleet, Jiho, another commander, looked at the stars. We have to keep moving, he said. The galaxy is wide. We cannot stay where we are known. We cannot interfere. All we do is observe and leave guidance where it is needed. Their ships glided past planets and moons, past stars and asteroid belts. Everywhere they went, they left things in balance. Old systems that were overrun with automated industries were shut down safely. Ecosystems that were failing slowly began to recover. Humans moved quietly, leaving no trace of themselves but improving the places they touched. Counselor Yunseo studied the reports from scouts sent after the humans. They did not steal. They did not conquer. They only moved and left things better than before, and they left nothing to trace. We cannot even guess where they are going, He-Jin nodded. It is unusual. Most species take something. Humans take nothing but their own knowledge and skills, and somehow they make everything stronger by leaving. Miran shook her head. It is infuriating. We have rules. We have treaties. We plan, we negotiate, we watch. Humans have none of these, and yet they act with more wisdom than any counselor here. In another part of the galaxy, the humans gathered around small tables in the command room of their lead ship. Dayun spoke softly. We cannot interfere directly. We only guide. We cannot force any species to change. They must choose. Junseo nodded. Our strength is in restraint. It is not easy. It is tempting to act, to show power, to correct mistakes. But that is not our way. We leave and let others learn on their own. The council continued their discussions, growing more anxious with every report. They leave without a word, without demand, and without conflict. Ho-Jin said, his voice low. And yet they leave a message we cannot ignore. Yunseo studied the faint traces of energy the humans left behind. It is subtle. They removed certain systems, altered energy flows, even adjusted minor planetary orbits. Nothing is permanent, but it shows that humans can act quietly and effectively. They have power we cannot measure with weapons or fleets. Miran groaned. It is as if we are blind. We cannot see what they are doing. And we cannot speak of it. Humans do not leave words, just departure. On one small abandoned space station, humans collected the last of their equipment. Jiho carefully placed a device into storage. This will serve no one, he said. We cannot leave traces that can be misused. Everything we take with us is knowledge, skill, and understanding. Nothing else matters. In the council chamber, the debate continued. What can we do? One counselor asked. If we follow them, they will vanish again. If we do nothing, they will influence the galaxy without our control. How do we respond? Heijin looked around calmly. Perhaps the lesson is that we cannot control them. Perhaps we are meant to learn from their actions, not stop them. They teach without speaking. They act without being seen. That is the power of humans. Miran stared at him. Are you suggesting we simply watch? Heijin nodded. For now, they left us nothing to fight against. They left no demands, no threats, only absence. And in that absence there is understanding waiting to grow. Meanwhile, the human ships traveled past nebulae and black holes. Dayan studied her instruments and smiled slightly. No one can follow us. No one will understand until they are ready. And maybe some will never understand. That is acceptable. Junseo placed his hand on the console. We are not running. We are guiding quietly, invisibly. The galaxy will change and the council will see it in time. But they cannot force it. They cannot demand it. It must happen naturally. The council watched and debated, but the humans were already gone. Their paths erased. Their presence a whisper in the galaxy. Heijin thought about it long after the meeting ended. Perhaps this is the first time a species has left nothing but lessons. Perhaps this is humanity's true strength. Miran remained uneasy. Strength without visibility is dangerous. And yet, I cannot deny it is brilliant. Perhaps they are wiser than any of us imagined. In the cold silence of space, the human fleet moved steadily onward. Junseo, Dayun, and Jiho watched the stars pass. They spoke little, for no words were needed. Their departure was the message. And somewhere, far away, the council finally began to understand. The council could not stop talking about the humans. Every meeting started with the same question. Where had they gone and what had they taken? But the more they studied, the less they understood. There was no trace of human technology, no signals and no weapons. It was as if humans had erased themselves from the map of known space. Yunseo, the young counselor, pored over every report coming from the scouts. They leave no waste, no debris, she said to Heijin. Even when they leave a system, it is as if they were never here. Yet the planets and moons they visited seem different. Cleaner, more balanced, Heijin nodded slowly. They do not act like other species. No greed, no claim, no destruction. They change what they touch quietly, then vanish. They do not take, but they influence everything. Miran crossed her arms. Influence? They are gone. How can you call that influence? If they are not here, they cannot act. Yunseo looked at her monitors and pointed. Look here. This is a small colony in the Soren system. Before humans came, its atmosphere was unstable. Machines ran out of control. Now, after a month of human presence, the system is stable. The machines are working properly and the wildlife is returning. No human remains, no devices, nothing. Only balance, Miran frowned. That is impressive. But how can they do it without leaving tools or teams behind? Heijin leaned forward. That is the question. They are not visible, yet they affect everything. They do not need weapons to change systems. They simply understand. Far away in a sector beyond the council's attention, humans moved between stars in small, quiet fleets. Da-Yun studied charts with Jiho. We must be careful, she said. Some species will notice us if we make mistakes. Even small energy emissions can give us away. Junseo nodded. We are already invisible to most. But you are right. We must stay cautious. Our work is delicate. We are here to guide, not conquer. They approached a small planet that had once been overrun by automated factories. The surface was covered in smoke and the rivers were thick with chemicals. Dayan shook her head. It will take time, but we can restore it. Humans do not always fix everything immediately. Sometimes we must let the world heal itself after we remove obstacles. Junseo smiled. That is the point. We do not force change. We remove the dangers, then let life continue naturally. The Council may never understand this, but it is the right way. Meanwhile, the Council debated the humans' intentions. Ho Jin spoke with a quiet authority. I believe we are missing something. Humans left voluntarily. They could have stayed. They could have demanded recognition, territory, or influence. Yet they chose to leave. That is power in its purest form. They do not need to fight or demand. They act and disappear. Miran shook her head. It is maddening. We depend on presence to know influence. Humans teach us that influence does not need presence. They are gone. Yet everything we thought was under our control has changed. Yunseo examined the reports from scout drones sent to trace human movement. It is more than influence. They leave patterns of stability. Systems that were chaotic are now self-correcting. Civilizations that relied on exploitation are now slowly changing. Humans are gone, yet the galaxy shifts because of them. Heijin leaned back and sighed. It is subtle, but it is there. We are watching a species that acts in silence, yet its effect is loud. The galaxy itself responds to them without understanding why. In the human fleet, Jiho navigated through a field of asteroids. There are other beings who will try to track us, he said. We must not leave even the smallest traces. Even a minor signature could be misinterpreted as a weapon or threat. Dayun adjusted the sensors. We are careful. The galaxy does not need to see us. It only needs to learn what we leave behind. That is more powerful than any weapon. The humans moved to another world. It was a planet filled with factories that mined minerals aggressively, destroying rivers and forests. They landed quietly, entering the control centers. Junseo spoke softly to the team. We disable the harmful systems. We leave behind instructions in native languages. Nothing more. Do not interfere with daily life. Dayun nodded. Even the instructions are suggestions. The people can follow them or ignore them. Our presence is guidance, not control. Back in the council chamber, discussions became more urgent. They leave traces of balance, but nothing of themselves, Ho Jin said. It is impossible to capture or control them, yet every system they touched is slightly improved. We cannot measure it with our usual tools. How do we respond? Miran shook her head. Perhaps we cannot respond at all. Perhaps we are witnessing a kind of power we do not understand. Humans are different. They are not like any species we have known. Yunseo looked thoughtful. They do not take. They do not dominate. They do not demand, and yet, everything is better because of them. That is the most dangerous kind of influence. In the human fleet, Jiho watched a distant planet recover from centuries of pollution and mismanagement. This is what we take with us, he said quietly. The knowledge that even small actions done carefully and without violence can change worlds. That is what humans share. Dayun smiled slightly. And we leave nothing else. No weapons, no control, no claims. Only guidance and example. Junseo added. The council may never understand this. They want words, statements, treaties. But sometimes silence speaks louder than any announcement. We teach without speaking. We lead without following. We leave without taking. Heijin, back in the council chamber, finally spoke with conviction. They have changed the galaxy without even being here. It is subtle, but it is clear. They have removed themselves from dependency and interference, and yet systems improve. Civilizations grow stronger. That is something we cannot achieve with rules, armies, or laws. Miran looked uneasy. It is unsettling. We cannot measure their strength, and we cannot predict their actions. We are watching a species that does not follow any pattern we know. Yunseo smiled faintly. Perhaps we are meant to learn from them, not stop them. They show us that power is not only in control or dominance. Power can be in restraint, patience, and quiet action. In the human fleet, Junseo, Daeun, and Jiho shared a silent moment. The stars passed by, distant and cold. We cannot be seen, Junseo said softly. But we can be felt. Our actions ripple through the galaxy, but no one will know how. That is the strength we leave behind. Dayun nodded. And that is enough. No recognition, no reward, only balance. Only understanding for those who can perceive it. Jiho added. We do not leave to hide. We leave to teach. Quietly, without words, we show what humanity can do, not by taking but by leaving things better than we found them. The council continued to debate and study, but humans were already far away, moving through unexplored regions. Their presence was gone, but the effects of their actions were spreading slowly. Planets began to recover, systems stabilized, and even minor civilizations started to follow patterns of balance without realizing why. Heijin finally leaned back in his chair, looking at the empty star maps. Perhaps this is the first time we see a species that acts without desire for recognition, yet leaves influence everywhere. Perhaps this is humanity's true lesson. Miran shivered slightly. A lesson we may not fully understand for centuries, and yet, we cannot deny it is brilliant. In the silent fleet of humans, there were no celebrations or speeches, only quiet understanding. They had left one more system behind, improved without anyone noticing. They were gone, but the galaxy had changed because of them. And far away, the Council began to realize that influence without presence could be more powerful than armies, more enduring than treaties, and more meaningful than conquest. Humans were gone, but their effects would not be forgotten. The Council had grown uneasy. Days turned into weeks, and reports of human activity continued to arrive. Yet none showed conflict, none showed conquest. Systems that had once been chaotic were slowly stabilizing, and planets damaged by overuse were beginning to recover. The counselors could see it but could not explain it. Humans were gone, yet their presence was stronger than ever. Hojin spoke first in the chamber that day. We must accept that humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They leave without words, without claims, without signs, yet they affect everything. We cannot measure them with weapons or fleets. We cannot control them with rules. Miran scowled, pacing in front of the tall windows of the chamber. We are counselors. Our duty is to observe, to regulate, to manage civilizations. Humans break every rule. We do not know where they are, what they plan, or what they take. And yet everything is changing because of them. Yunseo tapped on her console. I have compared data from multiple systems. It is consistent. Every world humans visited shows slight improvement. Ecosystems recover, civilizations adapt better, technology becomes safer, and automation becomes more responsible. Humans leave without interference, yet systems improve. Heijin leaned back. They show us what we never understood. Power is not always in control. Sometimes power is in restraint and patience and careful action. They do not dominate. They guide without being seen. That is their strength. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the galaxy, humans were quietly moving through uncharted space. Junseo, Dayun, and Jiho gathered around a holographic star map. We must plan the next route carefully, Junseo said. Even small miscalculations can reveal our position. We cannot let anyone track us, Dayun nodded. We do not need recognition. We only need to act. The Council will see the results eventually, but we cannot interfere with them or any other species directly. That is not our way. Jiho looked out through the ship's viewport at a newly recovering planet. Every system we leave behind is better than we found it. Sometimes the change is small. Sometimes it is large. But it is always lasting. That is the lesson of humanity. Back in the council chamber, debate continued. Miran slammed her clawed hand on the table. We are supposed to understand and predict species. Humans cannot be predicted. They vanish. They do not take. They do not fight. And yet everything they touch improves. It is maddening. Hojin raised his voice calmly. It is not madness. It is wisdom. Humans teach without teaching. They act without forcing. They influence without being present. This is something we have never seen. Yunseo looked thoughtful. Perhaps we are witnessing the evolution of influence. They do not conquer. They do not claim. They leave the galaxy stronger simply by being careful, by knowing what to change and what to leave alone. That is more powerful than armies. Far from the council, humans had arrived at a system filled with primitive colonies. The planets were overcrowded, polluted, and mismanaged. Junseo instructed the crew. Our work is to remove hazards. We do not correct mistakes ourselves. We disable harmful systems and leave guidance. That is all, Daun added. Even the guidance must be subtle. They must choose to follow it. We do not force knowledge. We only offer the possibility of better choices. Jiho examined the surface. The council will never understand this. They want words, statements, treaties. Humans work differently. Our influence is invisible, but it is lasting. On one of the small moons, humans dismantled old factories that had polluted rivers. The machinery was carefully deactivated and stored away. Instructions were left for the local species on how to safely manage resources. Nothing was imposed. No human presence remained after the fleet left. Back in the council chamber, Heijin observed the latest data. They have no weapons here. No fleet, no alliances. Yet systems improve. It is not conquest. It is subtle, and it is effective. Humans do not dominate, they uplift. Miran shook her head. We cannot call it domination. But how can absence lead to improvement? How can leaving be a lesson? We have never seen power without presence. Yunseo's eyes lit up. Perhaps that is the point. Humans show that strength does not require display. Influence does not require orders. Change does not require interference. They leave and the galaxy learns. That is why they are different. In the human fleet, Da-Un studied a small planet where automated mining had destroyed forests. We cannot fix everything at once, she said. Sometimes we remove only the largest threat and leave the rest to recover naturally. That is part of the lesson. Patience is as important as action. Junseo placed his hand on the console. We do not act for praise or recognition. We act because it is right. That is humanity's way. Our strength lies in restraint, in careful understanding, and in knowing when to step back. Jiho observed the planet's surface through the viewport. The Council may never comprehend this. They cannot see subtlety. They want proof, confrontation, declarations, but they will feel the results. That is enough. Back at the Council, Ho-Jin finally spoke with authority. Humans do not act as we expect. They are gone, yet they have power. They do not demand. They do not fight. They leave only influence. It is subtle, yet permanent. This is the first time a species has taught us that absence can be more powerful than presence. Miran's eyes narrowed. Do you mean to say humans are stronger because they leave? Heijin nodded. Yes, they do not need recognition, control, or war. They act in silence and still shape the galaxy. That is power beyond measurement. Yunseo added softly, we cannot stop them and we cannot predict them. Perhaps that is the lesson we must learn. Humanity teaches us that the galaxy does not need domination to progress. Guidance can be invisible, yet transformative. In the human fleet, the three leaders watched a distant star fade. Junseo spoke quietly. Every system we leave behind will recover on its own. We give only the tools, the lessons, and the chance to act better. That is the true meaning of departure. Daewon smiled slightly. No words are needed. Our work speaks for itself. The Council will understand in time if they are willing to see. Jiho nodded. We are not fleeing. We are moving forward. Quietly, carefully, and everywhere we go, life is better than we found it. That is the gift of humanity. The Council continued to argue and debate, but humans were already beyond reach. Their fleets traveled through uncharted space, leaving guidance behind and improving systems without recognition. Heijin finally leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his face. Perhaps we are witnessing the first true example of power without force. Humans do not conquer, they do not dominate. They influence, they improve, and then they vanish. That is their strength. Miran shivered slightly, and perhaps it is a strength we cannot ever match. Humans have taught us something we cannot measure, something we cannot command, and yet it is brilliant. Far away, the human fleet moved onward. Stars passed silently. Planets recovered without notice, and life slowly adapted to subtle guidance. Junseo, Da-Un, and Jiho shared a quiet glance. Their work required patience, restraint, and understanding. It required leaving, not staying. And in the chamber of the Council, for the first time, the counselors began to realize that humans had not just left. Humans had taught without speaking, shaped without acting openly, and led without presence. Humans had taken something from no one and left lessons for everyone. The galaxy was changing, and the Council understood slowly that absence could be the greatest power of all. The Council's chamber was quieter than usual, but the unease remained. Reports kept arriving from distant systems. Planets that were once chaotic were now stable. Civilizations that were struggling were slowly improving. The counselors looked at the data with confusion and a growing sense of awe. Humans were gone, yet their actions were everywhere, felt without being seen. Ho-Jin, the senior counselor, spoke first. We cannot stop thinking about this. Humans left voluntarily. They took nothing, yet everything they touched improved. That is not conquest, that is something we cannot measure, Miran frowned. We have always judged species by power, by fleets, by territory. Humans teach us that influence is not measured in force, and yet they leave results everywhere. We cannot follow. We cannot control. We cannot understand fully. Yunseo nodded. Even our best sensors cannot track them. Every system we check is stable, but there is no sign of humans. It is as if they were never here. And yet the changes are real. Subtle, quiet, but permanent, Heijin leaned back in his chair. It is a lesson in restraint and patience. Humans do not act for recognition or reward. They act because it is right. They leave systems better than they found them, and they vanish. That is wisdom beyond our understanding. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of the galaxy, humans moved through systems that no one had charted. Junseo studied the star charts, plotting a careful course. "We cannot stay in one place for long," he said. "Even the smallest trace could reveal us. We move quietly, leaving lessons, not presents." Dayan nodded. "Every world we touch, every system we improve must recover on its own after we leave. Our work is never to control. Control is for those who do not understand. We guide and we vanish." Jiho looked at the planets below. Sometimes the change is small, sometimes large, but it always lasts. Humans do not need recognition. Our influence will be felt without being claimed. That is the way we operate. Back at the council, Miran slammed her clawed hand on the table. "It is maddening. They take nothing. They leave nothing of themselves. Yet systems improve. Civilizations learn without being taught. How can absence be so powerful?" Heijin leaned forward. "Absence itself is their tool. They act carefully, silently, and wisely. They remove dangers, offer guidance, and then vanish. That leaves space for natural growth. They do not force change. They create conditions for improvement and leave." Yunseo studied her monitor with fascination. "Look at this system. Before humans came, automation had caused multiple accidents. The population struggled to manage resources. After humans left, errors decreased, technology became safer, and life improved. No one saw them. No one can claim credit. Yet the results are clear." Miran's voice was almost a whisper. "It is dangerous in a way. Their power is invisible. We cannot confront it. We cannot predict it. And yet it shapes the galaxy. That is frightening." Far away, Junseo directed the fleet to another system, one that had suffered from overmining and polluted oceans. "We remove the harmful systems," he instructed. "We do not fix everything ourselves. We leave instructions for the locals. They must choose. That is the lesson." Dayan adjusted the controls, her face calm. "We do not intervene directly. We do not impose solutions. Only guidance. Only tools. Only lessons. The rest must be left to those who live here." Jiho studied the planet through the viewport. "We do not need recognition. We do not need thanks. Our departure is the message. Our silence is the teacher. That is the human way." Back in the council chamber, Hojin spoke to the assembly. "They have left more than absence. They have left understanding, patience, and balance. Civilizations that relied on exploitation are slowly changing. Systems that were chaotic are now stable. Humans teach by leaving, and the galaxy follows." Miran shook her head. "We cannot measure it with our usual tools. We cannot command it with rules. And yet everything is shifting. Humans have changed the balance of the galaxy without a single declaration, a single threat, or a single word." Yunseo's eyes glimmered. "They have taken nothing, and yet the universe itself has gained. That is power we cannot fight or capture. That is influence we cannot stop." In the human fleet, Daun looked at a small moon recovering from centuries of abuse. Even small changes matter. Removing one harmful system can allow life to recover slowly. Our patience is as important as our action." Junseo nodded. "We leave and systems recover naturally. We guide, we do not rule. That is the way humans act. That is why we are gone and yet still present in influence." Jiho added quietly, "Every departure is a lesson. Every absence is a demonstration. We do not speak. We do not demand. We only leave a path for those willing to follow, and that path is stronger than armies or laws." The council reviewed more data, seeing patterns of improvement in distant systems. Heijin leaned back, his voice calm. "Perhaps humans show us the first example of true ethical power. Power without domination. Influence without presence. They do not conquer. They do not claim. They simply act and leave." Miran's voice trembled slightly. "It is brilliant and terrifying. Brilliant because it works. Terrifying because we cannot measure it, stop it, or control it. Humans are not just gone. They are teaching without speaking. They are leading without following." Yunseo looked thoughtful. "We may never fully understand them, but we can see the results. Systems improve. Civilizations adapt. Life continues. That is the legacy humans leave behind. Not words, not trophies, only lessons." In the human fleet, Junseo, Daun, and Jiho shared a quiet moment as they passed a recovering planet. The council may never grasp this, Junseo said softly. They want speeches, declarations, commands. We leave them only results. That is enough, Daun smiled slightly. It is enough for those who can see. Some will notice and learn. Others will ignore. It does not matter. Our work is done quietly, without reward, without recognition. Jiho gazed at the stars. Every system we leave is a chance for growth. Every departure is a lesson. That is the strength of humanity, silent, patient, and effective. Back in the council chamber, Ho-Jin finally summed it up. Humans have departed without a word, without claim, without demand. And yet the galaxy is changing. Civilizations are stronger, systems more stable. Their absence teaches more than any command could. That is the power we have never seen. Miran whispered almost to herself. Strength without presence, influence without claim, wisdom without speech. That is human power, and they are gone. Heijin nodded. They do not need to fight or demand. They act, they guide, they leave, and that is enough to change the galaxy forever. The human fleet moved on, silent and careful, passing stars and planets without notice. Systems continued to recover. Civilizations continued to adapt. Life continued to improve. And humans did not leave a word, a claim, or a trace of themselves. Yet the galaxy was better because they had passed through it. And somewhere, far away, the council began to understand, slowly and reluctantly, that humans had not simply left. They had taken nothing, yet they had given the galaxy a lesson in patience, guidance, and true power. The galaxy had changed. The council could see it. But humans were gone and they would not speak. Their departure was the message. The council chamber was quiet, but tension hung in the air. Months had passed since humans vanished from known space, and reports of their influence continued to arrive. Planets were stabilizing, civilizations were adapting, and life was recovering in places that had been damaged for centuries. Yet the counselors could not find a single human ship, a single signal, or a single message from the vanished species. It was as if humanity had taken itself entirely out of the galaxy, leaving only its effects behind. Ho-Jin, the senior counselor, spoke first. We have watched long enough. We cannot see them, we cannot reach them, and we cannot measure them with our usual tools. And yet, everywhere humans have been, systems are better. Life is more balanced. Civilizations are adapting. That is power. That is influence. And it is unlike anything we have known. Miran rubbed her forehead, her green scales reflecting the chamber lights. We have tried to analyze, predict, and follow. We have sent fleets and scouts, but humans left nothing for us to track, nothing to claim. And yet everything they touched is improving. How can absence create such change? Junseo leaned forward, her voice soft but steady. They do not need to dominate. They do not need recognition. They do not need fleets or weapons. They act, they guide, and they leave. And the results are lasting. Perhaps that is what humans have taken away. The understanding that influence can exist without presence. That power can exist without force. Heijin added, We have measured strength by visibility, by control, by confrontation. Humans show us another way. They leave quietly, yet their effects are everywhere. They have removed themselves from dependency, from interference, and yet systems improve. That is wisdom. Far from the council, the human fleet moved through uncharted space. Junseo studied the star maps carefully. We cannot stay in one system too long. Even a small trace can be noticed. Our work is to guide, not be seen. That is how humanity acts. Daeun adjusted the sensors and glanced at the crew. Every system we visit, every planet we touch, must recover on its own after we leave. We do not intervene directly. We provide guidance and remove dangers, and then we move on. Jiho looked at a recovering planet below. Forests were growing back over old mines. Rivers were clearing, and small civilizations were slowly organizing sustainable systems. It is enough that the results exist, he said. We do not need recognition or thanks. Our work speaks for itself. That is the power of humanity. Back in the council, Ho-Jin spoke again. The humans have taken nothing, yet the galaxy has gained. They have not claimed territory or resources. They have not demanded allegiance or submission. They have only left influence, balance, and lessons that others can learn if they choose. And that, counselors, is more powerful than any conquest we have known. Miran shook her head. It is frightening. They have taught us a form of strength we cannot measure. We cannot confront it. We cannot track it. And yet the galaxy is changing. Quietly, steadily, permanently. Yunseo looked at the data from multiple systems. Systems humans visited are now self-correcting. Civilizations that once relied on exploitation are slowly choosing sustainability. Technologies are safer. Economies are more balanced. And no one can say humans forced it. It is all invisible guidance. Heijin finally said, "It is subtle, but it is clear. Humans act in silence, in patience, and in restraint. They leave, and life improves. That is the essence of their power. That is what they have taken away from the galaxy, the lesson that one can shape the future without claiming it, without fighting, without demanding." In the human fleet, Junseo turned to his team. "Every planet we leave behind is a chance to grow. We give tools, guidance, and protection from immediate harm. We do not control. We do not rule. We only offer the possibility of improvement." And then we depart, Dayun nodded. "It is enough. Recognition is not needed. Praise is not needed. Our presence is temporary, but our guidance lasts." Jiho smiled slightly. "This is the way humanity leaves a mark. Quietly, invisibly, ethically. We do not take. We do not conquer. We teach by example and disappear. That is our power." Back at the council, Miran finally whispered almost to herself. "They have left without words, without signs, without demands, and yet the galaxy is better because of them. They have taught without speaking. They have led without being seen, and they have done all this simply by leaving." Hojin nodded. "They have removed themselves from systems and influence, and in doing so, they have allowed the universe to correct itself, to grow, and to improve. They have shown us a kind of wisdom and power that we cannot measure or fight. That is what humanity has taken away. The understanding that strength lies not in control, but in careful guidance and restraint." Yunseo added softly, "They have taken nothing for themselves, yet given the galaxy the greatest gift, a lesson in acting wisely, ethically, and patiently. They are gone, but their influence remains." Far away, the human fleet moved silently past nebulae, asteroid fields, and distant stars. Junseo gazed at the universe ahead. "We do not need recognition. We do not need reward. We do not seek glory. Our path is quiet, our influence subtle, and our work lasting." Da-Yun added, "Every system we leave is a story of recovery and balance. Every civilization we touch has the chance to learn without being forced. That is the true power of humanity." Jiho looked at the stars passing by. "They may never see us and we may never be known, but that is not the point. The galaxy is better because we acted carefully, wisely, and quietly. That is the message of our departure." Back at the council, Hojin stood and addressed the assembly. "The humans have gone without a word. They have left no claims, no threats, no warnings. Yet the galaxy has changed. Systems are more stable. Civilizations are more balanced. Life is safer and stronger. We cannot track them. We cannot control them. And that is the lesson we must learn." Miran whispered almost reverently, "They have taken nothing. Yet they have left everything important. Influence, wisdom, patience, and balance. All without speaking a single word. And they are gone." Yunseo added, "Their departure is not absence. It is a message. A message that true strength is not in dominance but in careful action, ethical guidance, and patient influence. That is the legacy humanity leaves behind." In the human fleet, Junseo, Da-Yun, and Jiho shared a moment of quiet understanding. They did not speak, for no words were needed. Their departure, their silence, and their careful actions had already conveyed everything that mattered. The galaxy had learned, even if slowly, and far away in the council chamber the councilors finally understood. Humans had taken nothing of value in the usual sense. Yet they had taken the galaxy itself into a new understanding. They had shown that influence can exist without presence, that power can exist without force, and that wisdom can exist without words. The council realized that humans had left them a gift beyond measure, the knowledge that ethical action, restraint, and patience can shape civilizations and worlds more than any army or weapon. Humans had departed quietly, and yet their departure spoke louder than any speech or declaration could. And so, the galaxy changed. Systems became balanced, civilizations adapted, and life recovered. The humans were gone, but the lesson they left would last for generations. The council could see it now. They understood at last. Humans had taken nothing, but they had given everything. and the humans traveling silently through the stars knew that no words were needed. Their departure itself was the message. The galaxy had learned,